In this video, I'll teach you how to make a magic ring for starting amigurumi creations. Make a loop around your finger with the main yarn on the top. Get your hook and pull a piece of yarn through the loop. Keep hanging on to the loop, don't pull it tight. Next, you need to wrap the yarn around your finger so that you can control the tension of what you're working on. Now you need to get some yarn onto your hook and pull it through that first loop. You might notice the way that I twist the hook pointing down towards the work. That makes it easier to pull it through that loop. Pull it tight by pulling away with your finger. That will make the hole size reduce. That's your anchor stitch. Now put your hook through the loop again. Put some yarn onto your hook and pull it through. This will give you 2 loops on your hook. Now get some more yarn on your hook and pull it through both of those loops. See how I've twisted the hook to point down? That's your first stitch. That's the only stitch you need to know in crochet for amigurumi. So you just repeat this again and again through the loop, hook some yarn on your hook, and now you have 2 loops on your hook. Hook some more yarn onto your hook and pull that through both of them. If you keep it a little bit loose as you're pulling through, it's easier. Then you gently tug on your finger to make it a little bit tighter, not too tight. Be careful of making it too tight. That'll make it harder to work with later. Remember to tilt your hook towards your work. That'll make it easier to pull it through those 2 loops. In different parts of the world this has a different name. In the United States it's called a single crochet. In countries where the language comes from England, it's called a double crochet. This is the main stitch you'll use for all amigurumi creations. With each stitch you use a loose tension as you're pulling it through the hole, and then you tighten it up, as you can see my finger pulling away there just gently, to make your loops the same size. If you try and practice to make sure that all of your loops are the same size, you'll make a really pretty plushy or toy or softie, whatever you want to call them. If you're finding this a little too fast, go to your settings and slow down the video so you can see exactly what I'm doing. You might hold your hook a different way to me. I learned when I was 4, and this is the way that I could hold it when I was 4, so that's what my body's used to. It doesn't matter how you hold the hook, as long as you can keep all of your stitches relatively even. So we're going to put 7 stitches on the hook for this first magic ring. Depending on what you're making, you might start with 6 on your ring, or sometimes 8 or 9 or even 10 on your ring. If you get more than that, you'll see a little hole in the center. So to start with 7 or 8. It's an easier number to do. Now it's time to close your magic ring. You pull that little tail really tight so that the center is closed completely. Give it a really good tug and pull it tight. Check your work and make sure there's no gap there. I don't know if you can see there, mine's still got just a little gap there that you can see my finger through. So give it a really good pull and make it as tight as you can to close that gap. Be careful you don't pull it so tight that you break your yarn. What you've made so far with your magic ring is not closed yet. Other ways that I use this without closing it is, for example, for a nose for a creature, or perhaps an ear for a creature. That makes a cute little ear on a very small amigurumi. You just sew it onto the amigurumi as is. You don't need to close it. We're going to hide this tail as we crochet it in, or otherwise it might come loose later. We need to put the hook through the front and back loops. It's a little bit difficult at the start, and you may need your fingernail to pull the yarn onto your hook. There's the front part, and now we also have to get it through the back part of that stitch. Use your fingernail to push it on. It's a bit hard to see there because my fingers are in the way, but you need to get the front and back side of that loop. I'll show you once it's on the hook what it looks like. There it is, it's coming on now. There's the back half of the loop. So you can see that there's the front and the back side of that first loop now on the hook. Can you see there's like two pieces of yarn there? So there's the first one that you had, and then the front and back of that first loop. You need to hide the tail inside there too so that your work doesn't come loose. So just pop that over top, put some yarn on your hook like you did before, twist your hook so that it slides through easier. It's going to be difficult on that first loop. Then get some more yarn on and pull it through both of those loops. Now you need to have another one in that same hole. It should be a little looser now. So push your hook through those two holes again, front and back. Get some yarn onto your hook, twist it so it slides through easier. Then get some more yarn on your hook and pull it through both of those loops. So we've got 2 double crochets or single crochet depending on your country in that first hole. Now we're going to just do 1 crochet into this next hole. So push it through the front and the back, pull some yarn through. Remember to hide your tail inside there so you're just crocheting straight over top of that tail of yarn. Get some yarn on your hook and pull it through both of those loops. So we have 2 on the first hole, 1 on the second hole. Now we're going to put 2 in this next hole. So go through the front and the back of that loop. I'm sorry you can't see it very well in this video. Pull your yarn through, get some yarn on your hook, pull it through both of those loops. Remember you can slow down this video in your settings if it's too fast. Go through the same hole and make another crochet into this hole again. So we have 2 in one hole, 1 in the next hole, 2 in the next one, 1 in the next one. What that's going to do is make your work larger and larger. So looking back there you can see there's 2 in that first hole, 1 in the next hole, and then 2 in the third hole. So into the next hole we're going to do 1. Remember it's 1, 2, 1, 2. That way your work will grow larger and larger. So it might be the bottom of your foot, or the top of a amigurumi's head, or starting at the bottom of its body, or whatever you're actually making at this time. You've already learned half of what you need to know to make amigurumi. You need to make a magic ring and you need to master this stitch. So through the front and the back of those holes. If you only go through the front you might get a hole in your work. So not a hole as in a broken hole, but a gaping hole where you can see your stuffing through it. Try to be careful with your tension. So remember you do your tension by being loose on your finger as you pull the yarn through the work and giving it a slight little tug after you've pulled it through there. See how at the end of that stitch I give it a little pull to make it tighter? Not too tight, remember, or it'll be too hard to poke your hook through the next time you go around that circle. So you nearly finished your first row after the magic ring. Remember we do 2 in one hole and then 1 in the next. 2 in the next, 1 in the next. That way it's getting larger and larger. I'll teach you how to make it smaller and smaller in another video. So once you're at the other end of your work, you can shape it down to get smaller and smaller then. So we did 2, then 1, then 2 in this one. You can go back and check any time. Just look at the stitch before. How many did you put into the last stitch? So for the first row around, it's easy. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is the last stitch to complete that row. Put your hook through, pull on some yarn. You have 2 loops on your hook, pull some more yarn on and pull it through. That's the end of that row. Congratulations, now you know how to make a magic ring and do the first row after that. This is the foundation of everything in amigurumi. Practice and practice until you're satisfied, and then you can try and make anything you want. Good luck!